Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to this week, this precious and beautiful week that we just entered. And also, as I said, I just want to inform each and every one of us, for those who are watching us online, that today is the 17th. Yesterday was 17th of Tammuz, which means that we are in the 3 weeks of Din, which means we are in the 3 weeks of judgment. And please, I want you to be extremely careful, and I want you to mellow down. That is what I will use the word, to mellow down, in your business activities and in your business dealing. So let us, because we know that these 3 weeks, especially of the 9 weeks of Ab, the 9th days of Ab, so for us to be able to obey and to keep our traditions, and that's the most important thing for us, to keep our traditions alive, and because our traditions are of God, and because it's God who has ordained all this time for us. So we remember that the falling of Jerusalem and other cities, the temple. So please, I want us to be very, very careful in our business dealing for the next 3 weeks. And the parasha of this morning is known as Parasha Pinhas, and I subtitle it Righteous Zealous. A righteous zealous, because we need to understand what does that mean, and as I'm going to explain during the explanation of the parasha, righteous zealous. Introduction. Parasha Pinhas detailed the reward of Pinhas, the priesthood, for his act of righteous zealotry. Related at the end of the parasha Balak. If you remember, last week we talked about the parasha Balak, when it was the king of Moab at that time, who went and hired Balaam to curse the people of Israel, and God sealed his mouth, said, "You cannot curse the people, that I am not angry with Israel. I love Israel. I'm happy with Israel. You cannot make me to be angry with them. So I love them, and instead of you to curse them, I will use you to do what? To bless them." And so therefore, God bless us, not curse us. He bless us, and He wants us to live. He wants us to enter into the land and possess the land as He has promised to our forefathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So therefore, He wants us to live a great life, a wonderful life, a life of peace, of joy, of glory, of righteousness, of peace. So, and the final census of the children of Israel before they enter into the land of Israel is detailed in this parasha. The matter of the inheritance of the daughter of Zelophehad is also mentioned in this parasha. The showing of the land of Israel to Moses, because Moses began to, when God told him that you should go and do what, and speak to the rock, when the people were asking for water, but instead of him to speak to the rock, he went and hit the rock, and God told him that because of that, because you disobey my word, you will do what? You will not enter into the land. And he began to ask God that he wants to enter, and God said, "Do not speak to me again concerning this matter. But what I will do is I will make you to see the land. I will fly you over, so to say. I will fly you over the entire land. You shall see everything, but you shall not enter into the land." And the anointing of Joshua as the successor of Moshe, which is Joshua, the great Talmud of what? Of Moshe. He's a disciple, one of the greatest disciples, or the closest intimate disciple of Moshe. And also the detail, it is also detailed the quantity of the public holidays and the festival sacrifices that were to be offered by the children of Israel when they enter into the land of Israel. Pinhas could not bear to see the perverse sexual act of Zimri and the Midianite Cosby being performed in full view of the entire assembly of Israel, of the children of Israel, and he acted in the pity, in the mercy of Adonai and Moses by killing the two sinners, as it is written at the end of the previous parasha. Yehoshua was Moses' dedicated student and was invested with carrying forward his laws and teachings. Yet he was not alone. God told Moses to stand Joshua before Eleazar ben Aaron, the high priest, and in front of the entire assembly. Rashi explained by Rabbi Shimon Yishaki tells us that this means the Sanhedrin, the court of elders, and the Sefsei Hamin comment, because they are all of the eyes. They are all the eyes of the nation, and Joshua will now be leading them. Which means what this explanation is saying that we start from Pinhas. So Pinhas could not do what, could not withstand and look and be seen the sinners, these two sinners, this prince called Zimri of the house of the Simonite, and the Midianite woman called Cosby, she's a princess in Midian, and these people were committing this illicit act, this evil act in the presence of the entire people. What is Zimri trying to say? Zimri is trying to tell the people, because Zimri is a leader, is one of the prince of the house of the tribe of Simeon. So he's trying to tell the people, what I do, you guys can do. What I do, what I am doing, you guys can also do the same thing, no problem. As the war that we live now, as what is, and because that is what is going on also in the present war. Many people think, oh, this is 5,000 years ago, this is 2,000 years ago, this is 3,000 years ago, and we cannot compare. It doesn't happen now. No, it's even worse now. The sin of Sodom and Gomorrah, if we compare it to the sin that is happening now, the sin of this present century is far worse. Because in the Sodom and Gomorrah, they don't do transgender. At least they have they might call me homophobic. Whatever you want to call me, you can call me, but I will call it what the Torah said. Right? They have homosexualism there, and lesbianism. At least there is no transgender, and they don't force children to change their gender. At least. But now it is even worse. A child as early as 12 years or at 6 years, they tell you, okay, because mama, I don't feel as if I'm a boy, I'm a girl, and the mama will say, okay, you're a girl. I take you to the doctor, and then you can change your sex. What type of immorality is that? What type of terrible sin, evil? And we call it is nice, is good. We are civilized. That is not civilization. That is being. I'm sorry. That is being. My mind is just getting up now. It's being lunatic. I don't know where we are leading as children, where we are leading our future into. Because when you say that, they tell you are a bigot. You don't understand. You don't know civilization. That you are what? You are old-fashioned. You should go and die in your country, or you should go and die in your jungle. But that is true. The truth is that you cannot force a child to change a gender. It is not right. It is not good. It is completely against nature. It is completely against the will of God. So this man called Pinhas could not stand and be watching what is going on. So he took vengeance, because the Torah speaks that during, if you remember that Balaam, when he couldn't curse them, he advised Balak, the king of what? The king of Moab at that time, saying, I cannot curse them. Their God said no, their God refused. I cannot curse them, I can only bless them. But I will give you an advice. What you can do, because their God is a righteous God. If they commit sin, then their God will be angry with them, and their God will kill them by his own self. It's like, we always say that there's no one that can conquer Israel. No one that can kill an Israelite. Only Israel can kill Israel. You see, if you want to use Israel to kill Israel by itself, like a virus to enter into the people and destroy the people from within. See, he couldn't cause them from outside. Let the people do the job by themselves. So he advised Balak, the king of Moab, bring out your beautiful women. beautiful, good-looking women, with nice figures. Bring them in and entice their men with your women. So thereby making their men to go and be worshipping your God. And that is what they did. They enticed the men of Israel, especially the leadership, the princes, who their own women, and who are not satisfied with their own women. They are looking outside. This is a nice, beautiful woman. They took them, and these women convinced these people to be worshipping idols. And so God was angry with them. God began to slaughter them. God began to kill them one by one. And this man called Cosby came out and brought the entire people and said, "Look at me, behold and lo. What I am doing, you can do. We're all free. This is a free life, as what we are used to now, right? They tell you, my life is in my hand. A child will rise up and say, Mama, it is my life. It is not your life. I can do whatever I want to do with my life. Don't worry. You are not concerned. No, it is not your life, my friend. It is our life. You need to understand. This is the greatest lies Satan wants to tell the people of the world, saying it is your life. It is not your life, it is our life. There is no individualism here. It is all collective. It is awesome. You can't just remove yourself and say, because that is what Satan is telling them. Say, it is your life, I can do whatever I want to do. Remember that if anything happens to you, your parents, they will be sad. Your parents, they will not be happy. Your parents, they can go into a depression, But you can say, no, Mama, don't worry, I can do whatever I want to do. No, you can't do whatever you want to do, my friend. Your parent loves you, no matter how it is. They care for you, and they want to see you succeed. They want to see you doing good. They want to see you prosperous. So that is what I'm saying, that it is not your life. But Cosby wants to tell the people, this is my life, I can do whatever I want to do. And the way you see me doing, you can do also. Because the head cannot be dirty and the body clean. It's not possible. Neither is the head clean and the body dirty. So he is telling the people indirectly, do the way I do. And that is going to cause catastrophe for the people. Pinhas has to stand up. Pinhas has to do what? He has to stand up and say, this will not pass. This will not happen. In this place, this will not happen. I have to do what? I have to stand up and do what is right. Since many people don't want to do anything. Maybe Cosby was a strong man, or was a mighty man, or was a man of valor, who knows? But he said, no, this will not pass. He went and smite him and killed the Midianite woman together. So my question now, which I wanted to ask, as we were discussing also yesterday at Shabbat, is if we want to judge from the present days, from the 21st century, from this particular time, 11th of July, 18th of Tammuz, 5,780, or 11th of July 2020. If someone go and do that now, the police will arrest you and put you in jail and say you do what? You commit murder, right? These are sinners committing sin, destroying people, making the wrath of God and the anger of God to flare among the people. And if you do that now, they tell you you're a murderer, right? And they arrest you and put you in jail, maybe life imprisonment. But people can be committing homosexualism and transgender and do whatever they want to do. That is nice, it is good, there is no cause for alarm. But when you stand up against sin, there is a problem. When you stand up against injustice, there is a problem. When you stand up against transgression, there is a problem. But when you keep your mouth shut and you don't say anything, oh, it is all good. Don't say anything. If you can't beat them, they say you join them. And the only one, blessed be He, doesn't want us to join them. He wants us to be like Jeremiah the prophet, to stand up against them and speak the truth, and the truth, nothing but the truth. To tell to the world, this is what the word of the Lord said. It is what the word of the Holy One is saying, that return home, come back home. Oh man, return home. Come back to the Garden of Eden. Come back to your Creator who created you. Stop committing crime. Stop committing sin. Do what is just and right, and you will receive the blessing of the living God. From the beginning, God provided a system where no one individual could have all power of leadership. Moshe was balanced by Aaron, and now Yehoshua will have the Sanhedrin and Eleazar, the high priest, to contend with. Even in a later generation, the kings ruled over Israel. They were expected to take the high priest and Sanhedrin into account. Their leadership was one of service and scholarship, not power. So what I'm saying here is that if God makes everything balanced in the things of God, in the system of God, things are balanced. That is, that is where the Greek copied. They copied that. They now subtitle it democracy, which I think is a demonstration of craziness, demonstration of madness. Because now democracy is talking about human rights. And so where is human right? What is human right? When you talk about human right, that the right to life, the right to a shelter, the right to a clothing, the right to a food, the right to happiness, the right to a joy, right? But not an evil right, not the right of committing iniquity and transgression, and you say it is my right. Not the right, okay, a man can sleep with a man and say it is my right, or a woman can sleep with a woman and say it is my right. That is an evil right. That is not a human right. But they cover everything under one term, which the devil wants to convince them with, or with the illicit act. Their hunger for that evil act is telling them, oh, you know what? Disguise it under this name, human right. Hey, human right, human right, human right. What do you understand by the word human right? Because God talks about human right, and that is why God gave the 5 daughters of the Zelophehad the right of the inheritance of their fathers. Because before that time, women cannot inherit their father's property. It is not possible. And this man has no son. He has only 5 daughters, and they brought their case before Moshe. Why should the name of our father be erased among his people? Why should the name of our father be removed from the children of Israel? Our father has not done anything wrong. Yes, he died of his own sin, but he has obeyed God, he has followed God all the day of his life. Why should our father's name be erased? And Moses said, I will take your matter unto God. Moshe went before God and took their matter before God, and God said, they speak what is right. That those ladies speak what is just. That their father's name should not be erased. Give them fathers. That was the first time in history among our people that the women can inherit a property of their fathers if their father has no son. Right? He said, give them the property of their fathers. But there is a but there, that they should only marry from their own tribes. So that they should not go and marry from another tribe, so that another tribe cannot come and inherit their father's property, so that there will be no intertribal war. So you stay on your land. There is a purpose for that. We have 12 children, and they are all not the same. They all have different characteristics. They are all special in their respective individualism. But as a whole, they are forced to reckon with. You see? So the way we have all the 5 fingers, each of them has their individual attacks. But as a whole, they are forced. Strong force. That's what God is saying. That give them the property of their fathers. Don't worry, give them. And Moshe came and gave it to them, that you are right. So that is the right of the daughters. That is a good right, not evil right, not the so-called human right that we are talking about now, right? So that God created what is called balance. That is balance of what? Of government. The democracy said, we have the executive, the judiciary, and the third one, which they call the executive, judiciary, and the other one I've forgotten it now. You know. So, but the system of God is we have the Kohanim, which is headed by the Kohen Gadol, and we have the elders, the Sanhedrin, and we have the leader like Moshe. During the time of the judge, we didn't have them, but later on God resettled it back again. Then we have the kings, right? Then we have the Sanhedrin, and we have the Kohen Gadol. So everything is balanced. One person did not have all the entire power unto himself or unto herself. So in the system of God, power is shared and power is balanced. Pinhas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron, the Kohen, has turned my anger away from the children of Israel by zealously avenging me among them, so that I did not destroy the children of Israel by my zeal. Bamidbar chapter 25 verse 7. So here now, as I was saying, that if anyone did the same thing now, they will call you a murderer. But we need to understand the intent of Pinhas. What was he thinking in his heart, in his soul? He said, this sin, this iniquity, this transgression will not pass in Israel, right? It is not out, you understand me? It is not out of hatred. It is not out of jealousy. That, he's a prince, let me go and kill him and his girlfriend. No, it didn't act of hatred to personal hatred. I mean, personal hatred against Zimri. No. Because if you act against somebody as because you hate that person for no reason, that's a different matter. But he had to save his people. Because the anger of God has already started and people have started dying. For that anger to stop, Zimri and his girlfriend has to be removed, because they are the ones that are perpetuating that iniquity in the land. The 3 weeks are upon us again. Every year we are warned to be extra careful between the 17th of Tammuz and the 9th of Ab, because it is a time of strong din, of stricter divine judgment. It is not a good time for a Hebrew person to take any unnecessary risk. But this year is different, and not in a good way. Gone are the peaceful and pleasant years. There is chaos, anarchy, and the truth are both ignored and despised. On the surface of it, this is being touted as a fight for equal rights, as a fight for my right. But a few pointed question reveal there is something far more nefarious going on, and the man protesting on the street is just providing a means to someone else's ends. Those people, you see them, they put up their banner or their sign. They say, hey, human rights, hey, human rights. This man is bad, this one is good, this one is. You see them in their thousands. They've been fooled by someone's ends. You see, those people are being used as a means to someone else inferior, that evil ends. That because he's using them, he's putting them let them go and receive the bullet. But I will be in my house sponsoring them. At the end, I have my own motive, my own evil motive. When those people go forward and capture the power, me, I will now come out and begin to dictate, and begin to tell them what I want them to do. So this is what is going on. You see, gone are those days when you can see people, people protesting for a righteous cause. Gone are the day when people protest for what is actually what is just and right. But now you see them, they call them LBGT or what, LBGTQ or what's their name, days, and you see them, making full of themselves, saying they are making a parade or they are making some, I don't know, some masquerading themselves fools. So that is what the Torah is saying. You see, the evil one hide behind. The evil one who just come from, because he doesn't want to receive the bullet first. He hides, he's under the ground, he's right under the ground, spearing up all these people to do evil. Say, go and protest. Go and disturb the government. Go and don't agree with the government because it is not right. We are the far left. These are the far right. These are giving themselves all kinds of stupid names. But if we look at it in some sense, they might be right. And we're going to sit here. Kabbalistically, left always means din, which means judgment. In the Sephiroth, it is the side of din. It is the side on which the light of God, which is Hesed, is constructed. As the Talmud said, you bring someone close with the right hand and push them away with the left hand. Sota 47a. When the left rises, the world has entered a period of din and has become increasingly more dangerous for anyone who opposes it. You see, I will repeat again. Kabbalistically, we have the Sephiroth, we have the left, the right, and the middle. Okay? The right is called Hesed, kindness, goodness. The left is called Din, which is the part of judgment. The middle is called Rahamim, which is mercy. With that balance, these two forces. So the left, the so-called people of the left, they've risen up, right? And if you don't join them, you are a bigot. If you don't agree with them, they will tag name you and they will insult you and they will destroy you completely. You can see what is going on the on Instagram, or what they call it, on their social media. They will do everything possible to even they will destroy your business. They will close down your business, and if they can even come and attack your family, your house, because you did not agree with them, because you don't agree with their own point of view, because you don't agree with their evil intent, because the Satan is on the ground, stirring up these evil people, telling them that injustice is right, evil is good, and it is a modern thing now to be doing nonsense. That may be politically incorrect, but it's 100% Kabbalistically accurate. It has to do with the Sephiroth and the way God built the creation. When we look at a car, for example, we don't even imagine everything that went into making it. It is as if our mind has set the idea that the car just popped into existence the way it is, with all its thousands of intricate details. Not a car manufacturer though. He thought that all the metal used in the car had to be quarried first and melted. All the many individual parts had to be molded precisely, especially for the engine. But he is aware of all the engineering necessary to make sure that the car not only exists, but that it works as advertised time after time. When someone who built cars see one, he sees everything that went into making it. It's an example I'm giving. The same thing here. The Lord God Almighty that created man know the work he has put into man. There's somebody who say, oh, there is no creation. Everything happened by accident. You see how stupid human is. Oh, everything is by accident. Don't worry. Everything just pop out from nowhere. It's like, oh, poof, poof. Oh, the creation came out, and the moon, and the planet, and all the stars, and all the galaxy. Why can't this planet be on another galaxy? Why here? Why the Milky Way? Why not other places? So it shows you that we think that we know a lot. That makes us to know nothing. We're not even. It's not what we think that we know is. It's not even a drop. I wouldn't even say a drop in the ocean. It's even less than a drop in the ocean concerning to the wisdom, the eternal wisdom of the Holy One, blessed be He. The way it taught, the way it brought creation into existence and everything that we see and unseen. So the same process goes here with a man, the engineer that designed a motor car. We that doesn't understand, oh, I want to go and buy a motor car, good. Which one do you want to buy? Mercedes Benz or a Toyota, right? You get your key, you drive. It's what is calm, it's good. You have your AC, you have everything. But if you look at all the intricate details that go into that making that car, your brain will explode. It takes time. That man, that woman, invest his or her soul into making that particular car. They did a lot of research, a lot of investment, a lot of things to make sure that everything goes perfectly well. That car will continue to work and serve you as advertised and as agreed. You know, because if the car breaks after 2 days, then the manufacturer will be a problem, right? So therefore, the car works exactly the way it's being advertised. That is what he's saying here. That each and every one of us, that we are designed perfectly well by God, and there is a purpose for our creation. Let's see. Even that is not at the end of the story. It may end the physical part, but not the metaphysical one. We know that everything ultimately is just energy. And energy is not physical at all. It may operate in the physical world, even make it work, but it itself is not physical. Though scientists do not know what it is, Kabbalists do. Energy is the light of God, which constantly flow into this world to maintain and sustain every last part of it. It's long and complicated. But the system God built is to make it all happen is called the Sephiroth, of which there are 10. For every specific reason, the Sephiroth are ordered into 3 rows. The right being the line of Hesed, kindness. The left being the line of Gevurah, which means strength, and the middle, which means the Rachamim, mercy. The right one, the side of Hesed, promotes the flow of divine light into creation, perfecting it. It's what makes the presence of God happen. I mean, that you can feel it. The left side prevents the light of God from entering the world to allow evil to exist and to make judgment possible. It also makes the world seem to be so godless at times. The middle line balance between the two sides, tempering both the Hesed and the Gevurah. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say here. It's a little bit complicated, but let me put it in a simple form. Energy, what we call energy, according to our own sage, according to our own tradition, energy is God. Okay? God made it from the beginning. It flows. The way God designed the world, the creation, the physical and the metaphysical. He created them in the layers, in the levels. And these levels are 10. And they call them the Sephiroth. The energy, the light of God flow from the highest, from the throne of God, down to this world. Line, until it comes to our own world. That is called Malkut. That's our world, the physical world. So, and this world are what I made balance. We have the left side and the right side. The right side is called the Hesed, which means the kindness that makes the word that makes the energy of God to flow directly, calm, easy, beautiful, that make everything you can feel the presence of creation. While the left side is called the Gevurah, and this side hide the presence of God. That is why sometimes you see that the world seems to be godless and as if there is no God in creation, as if God has abandoned the creation. No, it hasn't. This prevents the light to flow. And we have the middle one, which is called the Rahamim, which means mercy. They are balanced between these two. The right side, at the end of that, or at the end of last week parasha, God was protective of the Hebrew people, of his people, the people of Israel, by stopping Balaam from cursing them. Even Balaam was forced to praise the people of Israel, the nation of Israel, which remained protected and happy in the camp below. Hesed, which means goodness, flow into the world strongly at that time. Soon after, Balaam and Balak sent the women of Midian into the Israelite camp, and terrible sin followed. God responded with a plague, with the Sanhedrin executed the idol worshipper. Even when Pinhas stepped in and took action against Zimri and Cosby, he caused divine mercy to flow. The plague stopped, as did the idol worshipper and capital punishment. When Shlomo HaMelech sat at the throne, Hesed ruled Israel. When the temple was later destroyed, it was a time of Gevorah, and even the righteous suffer. As the Talmud explained, righteous people cause God to get up from his throne of judgment and move to his throne. People of history causes the reverse, and once that happens, everyone has to wash out. Kabbalistically, what we call the 3 weeks already existed prior to creation in the process that led to creation. It was a time when God's light was pulled back to create a desired result. Apparently, this was not one-time thing, as the spies find out when they went out at the time. As a result, they failed at their mission, caused their own horrible dismay and 40 years of wandering and the eventual destruction of the temple. Even in the best of time, when the sun shines down on humankind or on mankind, the 3 weeks are particularly precarious time for the Hebrew people or for the Israelite people. How many more so when things are happening to promote dishonesty, greed, selfishness, anarchy, and overall destruction? How much more so again when so many people watch it happen and can't see the harm that is being done? What I'm trying to say here is that I read all these things so that for us to just have an insight into what this parasha of Pinhas is talking about, saying that even though when the Midianite women came to entice the men, you see, God judged them, which means that God was using the left side, the side of Gevorah, of judgment, because they did what was wrong. But when, like for example, when King David reigned, when King Shlomo reigned, there was hesed. There was this kindness that flowed through creation, and the people were all blessed. The Torah is even though the Talmud speaks that during the time of Shlomo, that silver was like what? Was like sand in Israel. There was blessing everywhere. The people were blessed. People were so much prosperous. You see? And so therefore, when you see people committing iniquity, when we see people committing sin, and we as a child of God, we keep our mouth shut and not doing what is right. God told Jeremiah, don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of their faces. I have made your face like an iron. You have to stand up and speak what is just and what is right. And that is what I am doing here. And that is why God has chosen me for me to deliver this message unto you, unto each and every one of us, and unto all those people that are watching on the internet. You cannot join them. They come to deceive us, to give us sweet word. They want to tell us what we want to hear. They don't want to say what is the fact. They have a hidden agenda whereby they use you as a tool to reach their own goals. They don't care about you. When they reach their goal, they discard you. They don't care about you. But they use you to get to their own goals. That is what the people of the world are doing. That is what those people that are protesting are doing. Because the people that is sponsoring them, you don't know. The people that is giving them all the money, all the advertisement, all the news, you don't know them. These powerful men, they are what? They are under the ground, pushing the poor men to do what is wrong. As we learn from the flood, it is a time to have as much mercy as possible. That's what saved Noah. Life at a time of strict divine judgment, we don't just mean to smile more, but it means let your soul shine as much as it can where it should. Like a prayer, for example, for when doing kindness for others. We are always supposed to be self-sacrificing for God, but at times like this, even more and more. May God have mercy on His word and allow His light to shine through, stopping the Gevorahs stopping the Gevorah in their tracks. And may we all pass peacefully from this period of history to the next, where Messiah will come and right all the wrongs and warrant divine mercy for all mankind. We have to learn from our history. History sometimes do repeat itself, and most of the time it does. So we have to learn from our past. The Torah said, "You shall remember what Amalek did. You shall not forget." But some people say, "Oh, God said, forgive and forget." That is the devil's way. That is not God's way. That is not what Torah said. Torah said, "You shall not forget." Because when you forget, you tend to repeat that mistake again. But when you don't forget, you remember. Somebody did something wrong to you. You forgive him, yeah, but don't forget. Never forget. You forgive him. That is good. Because so that your heavenly Father will forgive you your own sin. Right? You forgive him or her, but never you forget. Because if you forget, that thing will repeat itself again. And never repeat in a worse way. You don't forget, you guide yourself. You always guide yourself. Your eyes must be 360 degrees, watching, being guided. The Torah said, "And when you shall enter your land, you shall surely revenge on Amalek what they did." Because what they did was evil in the sight of God. When people are vulnerable, when people are weak, you don't attack weak people. You don't attack a vulnerable people. You don't destroy someone that this man is blind. You know that he's blind. Instead of you to help him, to lead him on the right path, you take him and throw him into a well. That is wickedness. When people cannot defend themselves, you go and start fighting them. When a woman cannot defend herself, you go and attack her. When the child cannot defend himself or herself, you go and attack them. That is madness. That is crazy. God said, such a case is a wickedness, and you shall not forget. So I'm telling us now that history do repeat itself, and I don't want a negative history to repeat itself in our life. So therefore, we have to guard ourselves. We have to always remember the past. Don't let it. Okay, I forgot about it, and that is it. No, you should not forget. You should use it as an example for the future, as a lesson for the future. And this is what we are seeing in our day-to-day activities. And I pray that may the Almighty God allow His infinite light, the light of His mercy, of His love, of His grace, of His joy to flow from the highest, from His throne into our life. Because we are in these 3 weeks of judgment, so we have to be very careful in whatsoever we do. Let us mellow down and continue to pray and asking God until the 9th of hour to ask God for protection, for guidance, for mercy, for grace. You know, that whatever we do during this week, we bring blessing, peace, and joy unto him, unto us, unto our family, and unto our surrounding. May the Almighty God bless you, sustain you, and keep you. Parashat Pinchas. Shabbat Shalom.